And I can read the script. Hold on, let me find my script for the online meetings.
Margie was having trouble connecting. She'll be right here.
Okay, yeah, I know we had to reset our router this morning, so that may be what it is. I will go ahead.
She lost the link, but found it.
Excellent. Well, I just resent it to her. So, okay, so this is an important notice regarding city meetings. This meeting is being conducted utilizing teleconferencing and electronic means consistent with state of California executive orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. YouTube and Zoom are being utilized for the meeting. In case of technical issues, meetings will be uploaded to the city website as soon as possible after the meeting. We will be conducting today's meeting in a virtual setting using Zoom. Committee members and staff are participating from remote locations, practicing appropriate social distancing. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting by use of Zoom, as noted in the city's website and on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak to the committee may do so during public comment or may comment on agenda items during the discussion of each item and must be logged into Zoom. YouTube is a viewing only format. Anyone using abusive, vulgar, offensive, threatening, or harassing language, personal attacks of any kind, or offensive terms that target specific individuals or groups will be muted and removed from the meeting. Okay, with that, I will get our recording going and welcome, Margie. We can go.
Sorry, I just had trouble with Zoom. Okay. Thank you for reading that statement, and meeting is called to order. Yes. And we'll start with the roll call. Jeff?
Here.
Barbara?
Here.
Robert?
Yep.
Lars?
Here.
Margie? Here. Approval of minutes. Any comments?
I have a question first. Who is one of us taking minutes for this meeting? Or Carrie, are you taking minutes?
Good question. Carrie, yes, no?
I can try. I don't always, since they're just action minutes, I can try to do that for today. Sure.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'll look
Anybody
at
else?
the minutes. I don't have any questions or concerns or edits on either of those minutes, so I'd make a motion to approve, accept both the May 4th and the June 1st meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Minutes are approved.
And just a brief note, so the July minutes were not here because they didn't get attached in time, right?
That is correct. We'll have them on the next agenda. Thank you, Jeff, for sending those forward.
Thank you, Jeff. Comments from the public regarding items not on the agenda. Okay, statements of conflict of interest. Okay. Regular agenda, first item, upcycle art project. Susan Sonali, sorry, Sonali.
Hi. May I have permission to share my screen?
Any
Yes,
objection?
I can do that. Does anyone else need that from your group?
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Hi, folks. Thanks for having me here. It's been a while since we last checked in, and you offered some great counsel. And so I'm back to say that we have 6 completed art projects, and I'm looking for your input with help on where and how to place them. Some of them are stuff that will weather well outside, and some of them are things that need to be indoors. The initial inspiration was to have them spread out across town to invite people on a walking tour, kind of like a scavenger hunt. And right now we're thinking we need to just get the pieces out so that we can drum up more interest and more contributions. So I can share with you, let me see here, what some of the pieces are. Just a moment. Okay, so I'm gonna run you through. So this was made out of wine barrel, you know, the rings around the wine barrel, and it was collaged and done from one of the committee members and a group that she put together. And that's something that can be hung from a tree. We've used it for some of our outreach events so far. So that's a picture at an outreach event. Then this, you can kind of, let me see if there's a better image of that. It's a little bit more up close. It's a blue heron that the school made with their art teacher. It's chicken wire and composed of a lot of plastic that was found. And it's, let me see here, I don't remember which school. Oh, Summerfield School. And she wrote a little ditty that goes with it. Let me see here. It says, "Wings of awareness, the great white heron speaks. Please take care. Plastic is a toxic material for all creatures and waterways. Can you make a resolution to say no to plastic pollution? Find an alternative solution. Be part of the needed revolution to find a substitution."
Nice.
That's their little ditty on that. Louise Bell made a series of sea creatures from old CDs. And maybe this. These are 4 of her sea creatures. She did a series of 8. A little fish, a turtle, and she also provided with that a pretty extensive write-up for each one of these. I think this is the same one, perhaps. Oh, that's the sea turtle and the fish. And let me see here. And then Richard did he's a local artist, and he got together a suitcase, put a bunch of old stuff, you know, just trash in it, and the tag that says "to any third world country from the US." So those are 4 of the 6 initial pieces, and would love your input on, just drumming up more business and where to place all of these initially.
If I can comment, one of my first reactions to it, first of all, is I think it's fantastic that Upcycle is doing this. It really fits with a lot of movements in today's society, particularly in West Sonoma County. My first reaction is that I think it would be fantastic if they were all part of the same exhibit because of the thematic connection with them all. There seems to be some difference in sizes. And as you pointed out, Sonali, in terms of what could handle being outdoors and what could not, some of them looked like they might be a little fragile. So I would encourage us to discuss that possibility, including them all possibly in one location as an exhibit.
Excuse me, are you expecting the additional submissions at a certain time? And perhaps we could include those if it's not too far in the future.
We are, you mean the other two of the six?
Oh, yeah. And is there
Yes.
still a call for entries for more?
There is. We're hoping to use these initial pieces to promote the project, because we'd
Oh,
love
right.
to have just a ton of pieces. And, you know, as Jeff said, just to get the creative juices flowing, right? Like to get people excited and doing fun things. I just met somebody at the coffee shop today, and, you know, you guys are the ones who suggested we roll this out in phases. And the phase of linking QR codes to more education and engagement on it. She's like, oh, I have a song about belonging to the earth that I would love to link to one of these pieces, you know, so it's to drum up more business. And I like the idea of having it in a central location. I was wondering about the city square.
For one day?
For maybe like a month.
Ah. Outdoors?
Outdoors. Oh, we also have, yes. Oh, there's two other pieces. People's Music just closed, and they gave us their giant wooden kalimba
Ah,
to be able to, like, you know, have people, use that, which was very nice of them. And then a percussion instrument that's made out of PVC. So I know we have that covered area, because only two of the pieces out of these are fragile, as Jeff noticed.
well, you know, that's
That
interesting
would need
because,
to be sheltered.
sorry. They have that lease, I think, until December, and they mentioned that they would be having sporadic openings of things to get rid of their inventory. I'm wondering if that might be a place to exhibit this, because they have those two great, or at least one great window. If during the, you know, the time that they're exiting and their lease is up, since they've already been generous and involved.
Another idea is once you have all the pieces up and prepared for exhibit, it could also be a traveling exhibit where it goes to the schools. I think that would be a really fantastic thing to share with the schools. And I wouldn't limit the grade levels either, because of, you know, a lot of the makerspace activities and related projects and classes that a lot of our public schools and private schools are doing these days. So I would think about that, how you could kind of package it and then schedule it with different school campuses.
Yeah.
Have you been in touch with the Maker? And since Jeff just brought that up, the Maker
With
project.
Chimera,
Yeah,
with Chimera Makerspace?
yes.
I have not. I need to get in touch with them. I need their help with helping us engineer the central piece that we've been trying to get. We reached out to Emwa, and he said he was too busy and suggested we check with Chimera.
Okay, because they also have space
Uh-huh.
indoor, yeah,
And
and outdoor, I guess.
And the first Friday of each month, they have a big open house too, with music and food and other makers. That might be interesting to be included in one of those upcoming.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking of lobbies of places. I know that West America Bank has a big lobby. I think, I
The
agree.
library.
Library.
Oh, yeah.
I would be more drawn to the library before West America Bank for just
Well,
but appreciate that.
I curate the exhibits at the library, and so I can be helpful if you decide to pursue that.
Okay, thank
The-
you.
There's a little problem with three-dimensional art, though, in the forum room because it's used for other activities so often that we don't like to have things move too much if they're vulnerable to damage. But anyway, it's
Uh-huh.
throughout the library. That might be interesting. I agree with Jeff and having it travel at some point so people can really, and the more public, the better, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible to get us in that covered space in the town square for even a short period of time?
You mean the gazebo?
Yes.
Well, every Sunday it gets taken over as part of the farmer's market. So would have to be from Monday to, Saturday. And there's definitely people who kind of almost live there part-time. So I don't know that it's really the best space for that.
Well, on the other hand, on the farmer's market, the gazebo, like if they have a music playing there, there's the background areas that are not used.
I think it's too small. It's just when there's music playing, they take over most of the space of that gazebo.
Right, and I do know from other discussions that the gazebo is not actually part of the farmer's market permit, and they don't use that if they have used music, usually it's somewhere else. So the music that's happening there is usually the ad hoc folks. I would be concerned, yeah, with the space competition and potential damage.
There's a monthly makers market there in it's the new, it's not.
Right, it's the second Saturdays.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the second Saturdays.
Yep.
And I can get Sonali in touch with the organizer of that. I think it's through this downtown, someone who's with the downtown association.
Yeah.
And then there's also then the Wednesday music thing at
That's
East Town.
that's ending today.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
East Town, yeah.
thank you.
On those same lines,
The gazebo.
I'm sorry,
Sorry, Jeff.
talking
Please say.
about the farmer's market though, I mean, the exhibit wouldn't necessarily have to be under that gazebo
Yeah.
structure, right? I mean, if it was an exhibit that you could set out in the morning and allow it to be seen by people coming to the plaza and the farmer's market, I'm just starting to think about what events will be happening in the near future. We're going to have a lot of bodies where people could see it and, hopefully learn from and appreciate it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So thank you, Jeff. Richard just joined us, and Richard he's trying to connect. He's the one who made the traveling trash. Richard, are you with us?
While he's setting in, I just want to say, this is really fascinating and we could just spend the whole meeting discussing this. But what else would you need from us so that we can continue?
Okay, thank
What
you.
should
How
what
would
you
we
like
go?
to do?
Carrie, you said you could put us in touch with somebody for the farmers market. Is that who we would ask in the city if we wanted to be able to display something in the gazebo beyond the farmers market? Like, who do we ask
Sorry,
if we want
so
to
I think,
display it around town?
thank you. Yeah, so it's gonna depend upon the location. And Barbara, I apologize, I was actually doing some the very first thing you said before we got into the traveling exhibit, I did miss that location. So I kind of want to just be able to run through for Sonali, who would be the person for each of those. I don't know if you recall that.
Are you talking about the library? I don't remember.
I did catch that. Okay, so that was, yeah. I have.
I know. It was people's music.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what it was.
I think that suggestion is a great one where there's storefronts that, become empty for a period of time to activate them with an art project would be awesome.
Mhm.
Okay, so
I
can
do
run
have their contact information.
And some of the
Because he gave us the
pieces,
Columbus.
like the sea creatures, seem like they have to be wall displayed, right? Like they're not just
Yes.
to be out in the square. You're going to have to then create easel stands
Yeah.
or some kind of hanging system. But if you're in a building, right, that's easy.
Right,
Okay,
and so
Carrie's the agenda. So can we just continue with the next thing? And just first to know, I think we have Farmers Market, Library, People's Music, other storefronts, the makers, and in terms of contacts that Carrie will help you with the Farmers Market. Barbara has contact through the library, and that you yourselves, I believe you were saying, could contact People's Music and the makers and other stores.
Yeah, it's right up on the screen, Margie.
Yep, what?
It's on the screen, Carrie.
Oh, excellent, I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm trying to track these, so
Okay,
Sonali, we have it for the minutes as well as for Sonali,
great.
and the
Okay,
one, Jeff, for the school space, do you, since you're a retired teacher, do you know who would be good contacts for the schools?
And I can contact the Sebastopol Union School District as a potential starting point, since I have roots there and I also still volunteer there.
Thank you. That would be amazing. And also how to help them, like, to generate more awareness about it so we can get more contributions. If you have any leads on that, that would be helpful as well.
Excellent. Okay. So I think, and then, yeah, Sonali, I can talk to you more offline about how, if it's the gazebo or public property outside of an event, that would be the city directly. And then
Okay.
if it's within a organization that has already permitted to, like the farmers market or the makers market, you want to display within, then it would be up to those people who are, renting the space, whether or not if they wanted to give you a booth or a space for the presentations. And I can give you the contact information for those two folks.
Okay, great. So when we talk, I can get this list from you. And yeah, thank you all for your encouragement. And that's really nice, and for your input. And I just want you to meet Richard really quickly since he joined us. That's the artist who did the traveling trash. Richard, thanks for hopping on.
okay, thank
We
you.
got some good ideas from the council, and thank you folks so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay,
Great projects.
item B, sculpture proposal at Garzot Building by Preschool.
Yes, and I did, around the same time I was sending you the email, Margie, I did send Tara, who is, I'll just give you the background. She's not here yet, but if she does come, or if she can at least get me the sculpture information, I can present it for her. The intent is the Garzot Building in Libby Park. That's the structure directly by the pond. If you've been there recently, you will have seen that there's a pretty brand new fence on cordoning off a little open space on the east side. The building is now being leased for a preschool. And I do know that Tara said today was like her first day of school, and so she was going to try to pop in. There was a large tree that was taken down to the north of the building. They would like to have a Patrick Amyot sculpture of a gnome in that location. Patrick has agreed to do it pro bono and as one of his community art sculptures. I did let her know that anything that's displayed on public property needs to go through the Public Art Committee and council. And so this is, and I don't know if you want to see pictures or if just that's enough to make a recommendation or not. I was hoping to have some pictures. I believe he has a gnome sculpture somewhere else. Their preschool is has the word gnome in it. It's the gnomies are kind of the kids in the preschool. And so it's sort of a play on that, but also a way to have something where there used to be a large tree by the preschool. And so that's being brought to this committee for recommendation to City Council.
Okay, any questions or comments or proposal?
I do.
Barbara?
Would the city own the piece?
I believe it will belong to the preschool.
But it's on city property?
It would be on, well, it's on city property, but it's part of the area that's being leased to the preschool.
But that lease is a temporary agreement, a rental agreement, right? Is there any way,
Correct, yes.
is there any way for the city to actually own it if we decided that would be in our best interest? Because if they ever leave, then they could possibly take it with them, is that right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I can certainly ask.
I just spontaneously, it seems like that would be a nice thing for the city to own. And no matter who uses that building in the future, if that's possible. Just because it's, whether it's a gnome or not, it still has some generic meaning, I would assume.
Well, then there's also then the question, I figured from what you were saying, Carrie, that Patrick is donating this to the preschool, but if the city wanted it, he might want to sell it. So
Well,
there's that question too.
we'd have to clarify that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I can certainly get clarification on that. If that impacts any recommendation, let me know. Otherwise, I can get sort of ownership clarification and discussion on the next agenda. To kind of talk about that. I think that's an excellent idea, Barbara, but yeah, I'm not sure what the ownership
And how,
concept is for that. I mean, I think the preschool's planning on being there fairly long term. They, not just a year, so they've invested in a lot of building upgrades, new fencing and play area and whatnot.
so then they would be responsible for its protection and upkeep and any damage or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, they would be maintaining it.
and in liability,
I think as a city sponsor, well, they carry insurance. But I think so as someone who's leasing land from the city, it would either be that or and the city also has obviously insurance for its city park stuff. It depends upon probably the ownership structure. If it was to be gifted to the city, then they probably wouldn't need to have insurance for it. It would be the city's liability. If it's part of the leased space and the lease agreement, then it's covered by their insurance.
yeah, because kids, sorry.
Since they're asking us to kind of approve it or for our input, I would like to see it. Is it already built? Is it on Florence Street and they're just moving it?
It is not built yet. He was going to build a specific one. There is one that is similar, and if we need it, I can just get the information from you, and we can table this until the next meeting or until later in the meeting if Tara is able to join us.
So I
She
suggest
did say
we do that.
she had some images of a very similar sculpture.
I suggest we do that and move it to the next meeting, and also that there be some communication with Patrick as to what his intention and ideas are, because if he hasn't created it yet, he's creating it for them. He may have a very specific perspective on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the liability is really important, especially if it's going to be around children, if they're going to be climbing on it, even though they're told not to, et cetera. This might be something we really need to clarify, because those things are made out of materials that are often a little dangerous.
So good. Any other things we need to, information we'll need to have to address this again at the next meeting?
No, but I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Thank you. So that'll be on the agenda. All right, next. Security at Ives Park, Sculpture Garden at Ives Park. Video, Robert, do you have any information on where that stands now?
Well, sort of. I had a conversation with Una last week. There is no camera, as I had brought back the information before, but I asked Una to talk to their vendor of the system that they use to guard the gallery inside the building. And she was hoping to get back to me by today, but hasn't. So obviously the cost of adding a camera, I am assuming that the Art Center would want us to pay for a camera connected to their system, but then we would have access to seeing video from it. So at any rate, I don't know who the vendor is, neither did she. She thought it was the alarm system, and nor the cost of doing that. So hopefully, well, at the next meeting in October, I will be in Europe watching my daughter get her PhD in The Hague. So I will be, I mean, if I'm somewhere where I can join the meeting, I will. But with the time difference and so on, it seems unlikely.
Is there someone that you could be in touch with on the PAC who could fill us in at that point?
Well, I can certainly ask Una to join the meeting.
Okay,
It wouldn't be that odd for a member of the city council. We already have one.
is she still going to be on the city council by then? I don't remember what
She is
the,
not running for re-election, I
Right.
believe.
That's
So
what
I don't
she'll-
know, Carrie, when does that transition happen?
The election is the first Tuesday in November, just along with the other regular elections, and they are seated and sworn in at the first council meeting in December.
okay. So
So
she'll be,
So, yeah, she probably would be, although that's neither here nor there. She would be
yes,
joining as an employee of the Art Center.
okay,
While we're sort of on that topic for a moment, just something to put into your minds. You may have read that the scratchboard artwork of a whale that was displayed at the Art Center previously, 11 feet tall, 51 feet wide, quite an astonishing piece of art, is coming back to the Art Center, frankly, because the artist can't find a place to put it and would like a semi to permanent location for it, which would not be the Art Center. It doesn't have a wall that big. So if anybody has in mind a place, I suppose it could be a winery, it could be the community center, it could be anything else that anybody knows, but a 51 foot wide piece of art is hard to find a wall for.
okay.
Interior or exterior, Robert?
Interior,
Interior only. okay.
How is it displayed if there is no wall to display it there?
well, they, the movable walls that define, that separate the gallery from the auditorium.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
they do is open the doors, push them together in the center so that the passage is at the sides.
Okay.
And
got it.
then those panels are big enough to display it.
Okay. Going back to the video, I know also I spoke with Jim Wheaton, who's involved with the Chimera, and he said that there is a easy to use and get app for video surveillance.
Well, that's true. And we could use basically a Nest or one of those kind of things that's typically used to surveil your front porch or something like that.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
and you can connect to it through an app. And if it were in the storage space of the north patio, there is power in there, and their internet probably reaches that far, so it could be connected through their internet and would be a thing that we can buy. And the last time I looked at things like that, they were in the, I don't know, $100, $200 range.
Ah, okay.
So
And
that would
would-
potentially be a good way to do it. We could mount it on that storage building. The question is, I mean, most of those are made for closer distance than that.
Mhm.
So it would require some research to see if there's one that's suitable for that application. But yeah, you're right, it could be an independent system, unrelated to their internal system.
Okay.
Is one, like you're starting to say, Robert, is one enough, or is it actually two we need given the length of the park?
Mhm, mhm.
Well, probably two, and there are the vertical posts that support the string lights and shade cloth.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, the problem there is power. The reason I said that about the storage building is that there's power inside there and the wires wouldn't show to anyone and the camera wouldn't really show. So it may be that we put two of them there pointed in different directions,
Yeah.
one of them with a longer range or a telephoto adaptation to it.
Another
Sounds good.
thought for discussion would be, and possibly a more economical approach would be going with motion detection cameras such as a GoPro-like device where they can be attached to either trees or posts high enough in and around the CSG. You know, the downside to that, of course, is you kind of have to know how often you want to check those and how often you might need to replace a battery.
Well, because there's so much motion going on there, I would think the battery problem would be significant. It would pick up every car going through the parking lot.
Well, depending on where you focus it, I suppose. Yeah, they can be pretty sensitive. Like a reed of grass blowing can sometimes set them off.
Right, which is why, you know, putting one, and we'd want to use one that records through the internet and keeps 48 hours worth,
Mhm, mhm.
you know, something like that, and then is overwriting it so that if somebody sees that there's been something, there's a limited amount of time you can go back to see how it happened.
Okay, so.
Is
Robert-
this something that Carrie, like the city has sort of expertise in this? Because they have cameras somewhere, the police department, like, is there something we don't have
You
to
know, the
kind of try and figure it out
police does-
ourselves?
Right, the city does have attached to some of its buildings and in interior security cameras. However, the city police does not monitor them. They're done through ADP or some other, I forget which company it is, but they're done through an outside firm that is monitoring them. I know when it was brought up previously, I did bring it to the public works superintendent and the police chief. And they both noted that it's, you know, it doesn't help in terms of any police enforcement generally, because folks, you know, there's not enough. It's usually not clear enough who is doing any of the vandalism. They'll have hoodies on, or it won't be a very clear picture and things like that. So they don't do that in any of the parks, including the skate park, which has a lot of vandalism issues. For that reason, it's just not worth the expense or the, you know, staff time to go through those. When something does happen, my understanding from police is that it does not result in anything they can use. So I think
So
the
then-
only thing it would.
So
be
then
is
why
more
would
of a
we use it?
deterrent.
To
You know, I
deter?
know I brought this up at this committee before, you know, I don't know, it seems to me that maybe if there is a deterrent from it and it can be looped into the sub arts, that's maybe a possibility, but yeah, it's the committee's had requested the discussion.
Well, a couple things. One is that we did talk about this before, and that someone from the art center had said that her perspective was that it was someone from one of the schools, and that if that was the case, and one of the things on the list for this is a connection with the local schools. And that even though you might not be able to positively identify someone, if there was an image of someone moving around and that the school could look at it, they might say, well, it could be such and such. So that's one thing. And the other is that if there is, if they know, and if there's a sign saying there's video surveillance, it might also work as a deterrent so that we can use whatever we can to protect all the sculptures there now and in the future.
So yeah, I was asking more like if there's someone in the city who knows how these systems work and we don't have to figure out ourselves what system is the best system. So maybe the answer is no to that, but
Yeah, I think, I mean, our police might have some knowledge of it. Like I said, the city's more or less contracted out
Yeah,
security
okay.
with an outside, just like any other business would.
right, okay.
I will do some internet looking and see where it leads me.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks.
Thank you. So another element under security is signs. So fortunately, we're very happy to finally have the signs that at least let people know what's there. There is also the possibility of some additional smaller signs or different kind of signs, just saying something, you know, people can have ideas on this of what to say to people. This is the city, this is for the public, please respect it and protect it. And if we do have video, there can also be signs saying there is video surveillance. So any ideas, comments on possibly putting up some signs?
Well, just to ask a question about signs, did we get a replacement for the one the artist whose name was misspelled?
Can we just put that into the next section? There is a section about.
I did want to get to that
signage
today on the next item.
Yeah, but thank you for bringing that up, but let's just hold that to the next thing.
Well, one or two signs that actually stated that these premises are under video surveillance and patrolled. I mean, even if we don't have those things, that would be a deterrent. You know, I've seen it done before, and it can have an impact.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's, and what about the idea of a sign, just, you know, letting people know that it's the public's, it's there for the public and please to support and protect it, something like that.
Sounds useless to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, sounds a little, yeah, I agree. A little preachy.
All right. Any
Yeah,
other
I
comments?
think yeah, I would like people to be able to enact that inherently, so to speak.
And the other thought is that I think, what are we going on 2 months now since the opening? You know, so far so good. I mean, maybe at this point we, you know, the materials of those pieces installed are headed in the right direction, and they're going to stay, you know, safe and untouched and appreciated. And if something does happen, then we do take that next step.
Mhm. Yeah, because this is,
They had maybe the first whack when they first went in, but
yeah,
knock on wood, it's been pretty quiet ever since.
yeah,
And I
mean,
do know that there is actually vandalism going on in the park on an almost daily basis, so it's interesting that they haven't gone back to that area.
So we want to wait and see if somebody
Well, we're gonna-
vandalizes first.
we're gonna have this discussion from here on in. I mean, with any piece that we put out there, it's going to have the same set of challenges. And I think, you know, traditionally, supposedly, public art is seldom vandalized and graffitied. We're very fortunate. I mean, the monuments in Europe are often defaced forever.
Well, Joshua had some tales of vandalism on his pieces in the public. Anyway, so in terms of a sign about under surveillance and patrolled, one idea is I can work with Carrie on the possibility of having a sign like that just as a starting point.
And wouldn't that apply to the whole park? Vandalism and patrolling? I mean, they're not just the sculptures, but anything.
Yeah, I guess that's the concern, is where does that stop? Do we then put them up in every single park and you sort of end up getting the sign clutter, which I'm always a little concerned about as an urban designer, having a lot of signs, not being a terribly welcoming park if the first thing you see is, you know, dogs on leash, park hours, don't do this, don't do that. It's, you know, compared to the really wonderful signs that, you know, announce the sculpture garden or the Ives Park. And I mean, I know there's graffiti on the Ives Park sign right now, but well, I'm sure it's cleaned up by now, but there was last time I was at the park on last week. So I think the people who are disrespectful of that are not going to respect a sign necessarily, is I guess the concern and the general consensus of public works and police who deal with this often.
Yeah.
I appreciate your comments, Carrie, and there is that whole psychology too of sometimes signs, even in their best interest of keeping things from happening, sometimes encourage things. Unfortunately, they backfire. And I appreciate what you pointed out too, Barbara. I mean, every time we have a piece installed in town, are we going to have the same kind of signage there, which, as you said, Carrie, can look pretty cluttering. So I would suggest maybe tabling this, putting it on the next agenda and just revisiting it and see if we've changed our minds or reflected on it anymore.
Or if something's really severely damaged in between times of meeting.
So it sounds like people want to put it on hold and wait until something gets damaged.
Well,
I just want to say, I do want to say that I think that the sculpture garden is a little different than all the parks, just parks in general. And it's a little different than an individual sculpture. It's a congregation of several sculptures, which to me could be very tempting. But it seems like the consensus is to put it on hold. Do we want to bring it up in the next meeting?
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, and I guess the question was, and here's my notes so far, that Sub Arts was going to be talking to their security vendor. The cost of the camera would obviously be the city's, but to look into that, I think that's valid to pursue if it's you know, the cost of a camera, which aren't that expensive these days, to get something moved forward. And then I have the discussion of the potential signs saying the premises are under surveillance and patrol. So I guess I could use some clarification to the committee. Are you tabling everything? Are you tabling just the signage issue?
Comments? Should we just table the signs and talk about the video or something else?
Well, I think Robert's researches will be interesting, and thank you for that. And that's kind of separate from the signs. So I would revisit what Robert has to say next, if he's here next meeting, or if he could give us an update before he leaves, and then we discuss the signage.
Okay, everyone in agreement with what Barbara just said? Pretty much.
So that's sort of saying we will eventually have video, which according to the police doesn't work for anything. But if we have the video, we're going to have the sign to say there's a video, because you need both of those things. What is it, the belt and suspenders approach? Or do we want any of it? I mean, the artists knew what they were getting into by putting pieces there, and it was clearly in our guidelines or our statement, right? Like, it's public art, this could happen, that could happen. So I don't know, to me, it's that snowballing kind of effect, right? Do we go down that road, or do we just trust that it kind of works as we planned, as is?
Well, how about we hear from Robert so that we can consider that information next time and see if there are any further comments at that point. Is that okay?
That's
Okay,
okay.
Okay. And then another element in terms of security is school in-services. And I've been giving that a lot of thought. And thinking about which, I think it'd be a wonderful thing. And we have talked about this before, about doing in-services in local schools, about the CSG and about the PAC. And the schools that are most closest to the park. So I identified 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 schools. And the in-service could also include history of the PAC and of the CSG, future things that the PAC can be doing in the CSG, and some possible art activity, either guided visualization or draw or write ideas and poems about their ideas and their connection to art around them and their visions for art in Sebastopol. So are people interested in doing that? And if so, you might think about when and who.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the whole concept. Is this something that we've talked about before?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I must have missed it somehow. But anyway, I think it's a great idea. I have, it depends on how we approach certain ages of children. And you say there's 6 schools. Are you talking about just the surrounding schools to the sculpture garden?
I
Study?
identified the closest and then slightly further out, and these are elementary and high school. So the closest were Annalee, Journey, Sierra, Parkside, Brookhaven, and Sunridge. Those are the closest. Then there's more outlying. There's Apple Blossom, Hillcrest, Oak Grove, Gravenstein, Summerfield.
Yeah, I think I think all the schools should be eligible because it's information and opportunity for everybody, not just the ones that are surrounding the park.
Well, it's also that the other things that the PAC is involved with are more local to Sebastopol city center,
Mhm.
central area. So I would start with the ones closest, but not rule out the others.
And would we not need a pretty significant script for this and a whole syllabus in a way of how to conduct this? And I mean, this is a big project. I've done it and I've created it for the Arts Council years ago for arts education. It's a great idea. It's just, there's a need to actually draft and create a whole delivery system, you know what I mean? Including what we say, what we focus upon and how we do it so that kids are engaged and there's some similarities. And
So, before we put the cart before the horse, my suggestion would be this, that there's a draft, as you're pointing out. It's pretty simple. It just lays out the objectives and maybe a short video of like the CSG or another couple of pieces. You have to send that to principals or assistant principals first to see how do they feel about that, because we can't just ram this into the schools. They're busy. Some with the pandemic coming out of that, a lot of visitors was really curtailed in the schools. So they're kind of coming out of that picture too. So I think by first communicating with the school leaders and getting their feedback, that I would recommend that being the first step.
yeah,
They might tell you some things that would change how we would go about doing this.
I agree.
Or
Because
would you go to the schools that have art teachers go that route and then they go to the principal, or we go to the principal together, in a sense?
it's almost as if the schools who don't have an art program are the most, in need of something like this. But I agree with Jeff. This is very important that we don't do a lot of work on something that may not have any any momentum or agreement with the schools.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
sounds good. So from what Jeff just said, that we should work on putting together a draft. And then also identify who we would contact and communicate with, and then do that and see where we are at that point. Does that sound reasonable?
Mhm.
And if Margie, if you have something you've been working on that you want to share with us, we could then make suggestions or potential additions to, et cetera.
Okay, and I think also, Jeff, given your background with the schools, that you'd be really a very good resource for that.
Possible resource.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to help you, Jeff. Yeah, and I think that draft, an introduction, what's our motive? Why are we, what's the intention? What are we hoping to accomplish? So that they know that we're partnering with their education.
okay, great. So how about this? Let's say to start out, if Barbara, you maybe have a list of those kind of things, intention and so on. And Jeff, any other ideas you have, and then I'll make an initial organization of that, and then we can work from there.
Yeah, I'd like to run that intention part by Jeff, since he's been in the schools and
Yeah,
very
Yeah.
up front and center.
good. Okay.
Is that okay with you, Jeff?
That's fine.
Okay.
Can we work on and see where we get by October meeting, and then just kind of report on that?
I wouldn't mind hearing from the rest of the committee members, meanwhile, what their ideas for an intention for this in-service is. Why are we doing this?
So, Carrie, can we legitimately, in between meetings, have people, let's say, communicate, the other two members of the committee communicate their ideas about intention and content?
Let's see, what I would suggest is that you make them, since it is agendized, you could make a motion to pursue outreach to the schools. And if that's a decision of the committee, that set the intention of this as something that the Public Art Committee wants to dedicate membership time to. And I don't know if, I don't know if Lars and Robert, as the other two committee members, have any input right now that they wanted to lend. That
Yeah, that'd be nice.
could be helpful rather than offline. Okay. In that case, I would say, Robert and Brent, if you could send it to me, I will forward it on to Barbara and Jeff. That
Okay,
way we make
great.
sure, if needed, it can get posted to the website as a public information.
And to me also, please. Carrie,
Okay. Yep.
okay.
Folks, isn't this a
Well-
classic subcommittee kind of thing?
Yeah, I was gonna
Like
say,
this-
there can only be two people on a subcommittee, so I can send out information. If I post it to the website, I can send it out to everybody, because then it's a public correspondence and the committee isn't sending messages back and forth internally. And so that's why it would need to come to me for distribution, and depending on what it is for distribution, I can figure out if that's.
Well, so what I'm in support of this. I think it's a great idea. To me, it's more like we have two people who've offered to lead it. That's a new subcommittee. They come up with their ideas. They bring it back to the committee next month, and then that's when we talk about it. That's a standard operating
Yeah.
procedure.
Yes.
So Jeff and I,
not-
oh, okay.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, so Jeff and I could actually communicate outside of the committee, outside of PAC, and then, okay, within.
Yeah, so two members, so that you can do less than a quorum. So in this case, we have 5 members, so any 2 members can coordinate it between themselves freely, because
Okay.
that's in accordance with the Brown Act.
Okay,
Anything involving an additional member, and Margie, that's why I didn't initially say and Margie, because I can send something any type of communication to Barbara and Jeff, as long as it's not a two-way back and forth kind of a thing.
Okay.
There are instances where, and I would need to check with the city attorney on this. This isn't a controversial item, but that's why I'm suggesting there be a motion to work on this. Similar, there are instances, and I'm not an expert on the Brown Act in any way, so I would need to check. But like the committee working as freely on the opening for the sculpture garden, that decision was already made. And so it wasn't a Brown Act issue to go forward and do the coordination for it outside of the meeting as it was done. I don't know if you take a motion today, there's a possibility that that could also happen, especially if there's no public funding going towards this. But certainly it does at least set the intention of the committee. I have PAC agreed, but I don't have an actual vote in the minutes right now. PAC agreed that this was a good direction to go with the outline of objectives and a short video of the CSG to go to the principals or school leaders to see if they're interested in pursuing. Barbara and Jeff agreed to be on the subcommittee to do that. We'll return back in October, and then I have Lars express support. If there's a motion, I think that helps, and a vote, an actual vote, which you can do as it is agendized to pursue this. Then I can talk with the city attorney as to whether or not it needs to be restricted to subcommittee, or whether it can now become a project that is settled. And as long as you're not asking for city money for it, it could just be, this is the vote we want to pursue in-house and in-school outreach on the arts. And then you can just have an informational report back. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay, so we can make a proposal that
Motion.
a motion, sorry, that the PAC pursue creating school in-services regarding the CSG and the PAC and its projects.
Well, it would be to create a subcommittee that is pursuing that.
No, what my understanding is what Carrie just said, if we have a general motion, then we can include other people also in input.
My caveat was that I can take that
You would check
motion.
that, yeah.
I would
So-
also create a subcommittee as well.
Yeah, so what, is there a problem just doing it as a typical subcommittee that then reports back here, and this is where we talk about it? Is there something wrong with that?
I think it would be helpful if we could also communicate about it and not just on at the meeting. So if other people had ideas that could get integrated and considered just in terms of efficiency. So I don't see a reason why we couldn't do both, pursue both directions.
Well, I would just say it's unless there's urgency to this issue, that it would be most straightforward, and we'd still have plenty of time to talk about it if we do it as a simple subcommittee. The subcommittee works on it, the subcommittee reports back, we talk about it as a committee, we keep moving along like that. Like, unless there's something in 2 weeks we need to go talk to the schools, then why not talk about it in 4 weeks as part of this new subcommittee?
Okay, so what do people want to do?
Well, I wanted to share another thought on my mind, because I'm a little conflicted about the amount of individual time I might need to contribute to that, because I'm really interested in F in the agenda. And my hope is also that E and F can be maybe moved up a little bit higher in the future agendas so we can get to those within a meeting time.
Yeah. I agree. And I agree also that there isn't an urgency to this, and my mind is going in all different directions where this could be a very dynamic and positive move toward public art education? Is that our role? I'm new to this concept here in the Public Art Committee. I have a lot of questions like, where did this come from? What is the intention? Do you know that education is under terrible duress right now, and the arts are perceived as very dangerous territory in some school systems? We're going to be faced with all that stuff. So I think this needs a lot of attention rather than moving forward with trying to solidify it. I think we have a lot of questions to answer amongst us in agreement before we take off.
Yeah,
Schools
I
are,
would agree.
education's in dire straits. I mean, and we're probably, we live in a pretty, anyway, I think there's a lot going on with this concept.
Well, we could just continue this to next meeting then.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
A discussion
Continue
amongst
the
all of us.
discussion. Okay, is that agreeable to everyone? I'd
Yes.
also like to say, I've
So we
already,
make them,
let me just finish. I've written up already a few pages on this project, so
Great.
I can share that as well.
Please do.
Okay,
so then we make a motion to continue, right?
yes,
A
Yes.
So,
discussion.
so I will make a motion to continue this item till next meeting.
I'll second that.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, moving on.
And one item, did anyone make a? I mean, the Public Art Committee does have the ability to make its own subcommittee. Was there,
So we're just
I did-
continuing the item. We're not
rather than
creating a
just
subcommittee.
continuing the item so that
Yeah.
you have people working on it before you continue, did you want to make a motion to formally?
No, I
to
think
form that
that our,
subcommittee?
the two people who are interested expressed reservations, so that's why we're just continuing.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's,
Okay. Commissioned art update, signage for commissioned sculptures, Carrie.
You bypassed letter D on the
I'm
agenda.
sorry, boy, sorry.
Not that,
Okay.
not that we
Okay.
want to talk about it. But
Well, since we have 15 minutes, could we move F up to the next item? Since that was something that,
Well, E is really also significant and urgent.
there's not a huge update on the commissioned art. So let me just tell you what these topics are and you can decide how you want to rearrange the agenda. The website update is the potential for updating the public art webpage. The city is also updating its website right now. I don't think that means it's critical for updates for the Public Art Committee to happen immediately. It can happen with the new website, or it can happen as part of building a new website. I don't think it makes up, given the framework and the structure for that, it's not a time sensitive matter, I don't think. The commissioned art update, the one thing I would like to discuss is the content of the signage for cities commissioned art. I would like to be able to do the order for that, for the Michael McGinnis plaque, along with the correction for get Rose's sculpture in the park. It's a little bit easier for me if I have them do, and it's a little easier for them if they do both at once, given the artwork and things they set up they need to do. So if possible, I think we had talked about in the past, but did not make a decision, that it would be the name of the artwork, the name of the artists, the same as the overall signage where it says Sebastopol City Council and Sebastopol Public Art Committee. And I don't know if you want Sebastopol twice or not, and also the date of the sculpture commission, or when it was opened.
It's a public arts committee, isn't it? Isn't that the title?
Yes,
Okay. So it's not the Sebastopol Art Committee, it's
I said, so, yeah, I meant if you want it to be Sebastopol Public Art Committee or Sebastopol City Council and Public Art Committee, and only have one Sebastopol because it's pretty obvious that it's Sebastopol.
okay. And would the one for McGinnis be a little larger than the ones that are on the individual CSG sculptures?
Yes, yeah.
And then, Robert, you had something you brought up earlier that we moved. if I can find it.
And is
I
there a
don't
consensus
think
that that
so.
signage is okay?
Oh, what I asked about was, we had a misspelled artist name on one of the
Right, right.
signs, and did somebody take responsibility for getting it replaced?
I had just noted that I'd like to get the Michael McGinnis one ordered and also get that one replaced at the same time.
So Carrie, you were actually asking for our okay with the language you just said for the Michael
Correct,
McGinnis
and I can put it in the
sculpture.
chat as well, so you can see it written out. So it'd be the name of the artist. And I don't know what the right order is of these, name of artist or name of sculpture, and then name of artist. What we have in the
I think the title would
Sculpture
be
committee
nice,
is-
title of the piece, artist, city, path,
The date.
and the date, right? The
So the
date
other
with the
ones have-
title.
The other ones have the Sebastopol City Council and Public Arts Committee on the upper, and then that's at my memory of the format of the other signs we used.
Well, members, if you're not looking in the chat, you should, because that might save you some time bringing that up. Because it's all listed, everything people have commented on.
Okay.
My question would be, Carrie, would the font size be any different from one line to another, or would it all be uniform?
I think it all should be uniform. Usually the name of the piece is in italics, that would be, I think, the only difference.
And is
Okay.
the artist first or the name of the piece first?
The name of the piece is first.
Yeah,
Thank you. And I guess I got that backwards on all of the sculpture garden ones, so that's okay.
that's it.
We'll do it right next time we do a call.
So it would be the name of the piece, the artist, the date, and then the Sebastopol City Council Public Art Committee.
Yeah,
All right, so that's what I got for the order, and then the
But
date at the
the-
bottom.
no, the date goes with the piece, doesn't it?
Yes, so it's well, yes, and thank you. The name of the piece, the date, the artist, and the sponsor.
Name of the piece, then the date. Thank you. This is
No, name
what I need.
of the artist and the date. Isn't that what we were saying?
I think the date goes with when the piece is created, not when the artist was born.
Ah,
Right,
Okay.
or the, yeah.
All right.
all right.
So then where's the date there on the next one?
Sorry, I can't do this. I can't hit return. I have to
So same.
do it
font,
on
you want-
my, no.
You also want same size point or different size points?
I would have it the same.
Same,
Anybody else?
that's fine.
All right. Okay, just to reiterate, name of the sculpture in italics, then the date, not italics, name of artist, Sebastopol City Council and Public Art Committee, all the same font.
Sounds good.
Excellent.
And
Thank
just
you very
the-
much.
Next time you send it out, it's artist rather than sardist.
This is in the minutes,
I
so
know,
I'll
I
correct
know.
it in the minutes. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
So should we plan on using that format from here on in?
I absolutely think it should be consistent. Those
Okay.
kind of things.
Oh, and what about the logo? All the other ones have the logo.
Yes, this would be with the logo as well.
Okay.
And the logo would be the top,
Oh,
Okay.
unless you want to do it some other. I
That's
heard,
fine.
I heard what sounded like a drone.
well, if visually, I think it would look better if it's over to the right. And it's
Okay.
centered in all that information, that block of information, and then the logo to the right rather than a whole nother line for the logo.
The right or the left?
On the left, on the left.
No, the
It's a
right.
little easier if,
As on the left, you line up all the letters
Thank
of
you.
each line,
Yes.
and the other side
Oh,
is more
that's- yeah.
irregular, so the logo goes over there.
Ah,
Right. Thank you.
excellent.
Okay,
Okay, so that will be the form for commission artwork. And the other order will be for things like sculpture, where we don't have all the information, I'll still abide by this. Thank you.
And a quick update on Ned Kahn sculpture.
I've been trying to contact him. The geotechnical report has been completed. I think it was completed at our last, or it was just getting done at our last meeting. I have not heard from him on that. I will try to reach out again. Do any of you have any personal connections with him that might be able, I know Warren Arnold is always really good at getting a hold of him and I couldn't. Robert, do you think you can help me?
You've called and he hasn't responded?
I've emailed him a couple of times.
And I've emailed him.
Well, next time I'm going to Andy's, I'll stop in his studio and see if he's there.
That would be wonderful. He should have, I mean, he has, I have sent him the geotechnical report, which was approved by our building department for use for the sculpture. And that was the thing he was waiting on to be able to do his
He
work.
also has removed his sculpture from downtown area. I don't know what that signifies, but you know,
It may actually
signifies
be-
that the building's about to start construction.
Hope so.
Yeah, so I believe what's happening there, I had a conversation with the hotel a month or just less than a month ago. They are working with SSU to try to get archaeology contract in place. They do have some archaeological work they need to do prior to construction. I think they were hoping to do that now or this fall before the rains set in.
okay.
Which is probably why it was removed, and then start construction in the spring. They do have the project out to bid right now, so.
Excuse me, what,
Move on to
Carrie?
commission-
I didn't hear the last part of what Carrie said. They do what?
Sorry, the hotel, Sebastopol Hotel or.
Yeah, I
Hotel
know, but the very
Sebastopol,
last thing, yeah.
They have it out for construction bids right now.
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay. Moving on to future art commissions location. So can we put that on next meeting to possibly select a location?
And can I just make a suggestion to everyone? If you haven't done so, I think it was last Monday's Press Democrat featured David Best's Arch in Petaluma that's been constructed. It's a beautiful piece. I mean, I'm a fan of his, obviously, but that he, in the editorial or the description of the article, in other words, he mentioned how important it was for him to engage the community and how that it was a labor of love because it probably went in way over budget, but how he made a concerted effort and the response was pretty significant with the community to help out with this project. I know he does that with Burning Man. He has a whole committee of people that help him, but it's a beautiful piece. I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen the sketches and then the photographs in the paper. So I would just suggest that we all look at it and see what can be done with an entry when there's someone of that caliber, frankly, is involved.
Yeah, I thought they did real well for $75,000. It's on a nice hiking trail along a creek right in the middle of town.
Good.
Aware,
I
but the notion, the language of Third Art Gateway was more about a location than a style of artwork, I would say, right?
Well, the arch structure, yeah.
No, I know what you're saying, but so we did a sort of brainstorming a couple months ago, right, of different locations and sites, and so could we like have that published with our next agenda or something so we can review and then come with a little more focus of where we'd like to actually see which site we want, or
Yeah, I'd like,
I shared,
what?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say I shared vehicle visits with Carrie, so we have that piece to share at the next meeting as well.
A vehicle visit?
Right, and I can
Vehicle
put that up on
trips.
this.
Oh, what?
Oh.
The four main entrances.
Oh, good. Great.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can send this out to folks as
good.
well. So,
Oh,
but
good.
there's just the sense of it. So the Ned Con is sort of right in this area right there. And then you can see the other entries as well as
Oh, great.
downtown.
And the library is on the west entrance.
It's kind of right there.
Yeah, so that's why it's for, I would say if we look at the east and west entrances and hopefully we could just, we could select a site perhaps at the next meeting. That's my hope. Not talk about what, you know, what kind of sculpture we want and how we're going to do it and so on, but just select a site. And in the history of the PAC, we had found that having a specific site in selection was really important.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I wouldn't eliminate the southern entrance either because there are twice as many vehicle visits on the south side than on the west side.
Mhm.
Although we do have something in that area and we don't have something in the others yet.
What do we have in that area?
I'm sorry, south?
So,
Yeah.
no, but
Oh, well,
we
I'm sorry,
have
you know,
something
I'm-
east and west right now.
It's my geographic
Right.
disability. So, okay, we have.
So
I mean,
right now we
west-
have one here,
west
and
and-
we have one here,
okay,
right? So we could look at something down here, or we could look at
Yes.
something up here.
Thank you. And that.
More or
those
less.
directions are.
This
Thanks,
one-
guys,
this
for
is-
choosing the
North and
only
south.
places
So
where
I'm
the
wrong.
city
This is
doesn't
North
mostly
and
have
south.
one.
south.
North
this
and
is-
south. Thank you.
That's,
I'm curious, Jeff, that's interesting information that there's more activity coming from the south than the west.
Well, if you think about the Barlow has brought a lot of visitors to
Oh, you,
Bowl, and a lot of them are coming from Marin and the city, et cetera. So I'm sure that
Well,
has
that's
contributed to those numbers. I'm sure Carrie probably has some other information about those numbers too.
That's good to
Yeah, I
know.
would also guess that, you know, there's a lot of residential outside of city limits where it's easier for them to, depending on the hour, it's easier for them to come up into town and take a right into Santa Rosa than it is for them to go all the way down to Llano and then up, which is
Yeah.
kind of the other option, or to do the, you know, right around the grass farm, there's the really back road kind of a thing, but it's pretty slow.
So you're
And-
saying that there's more coming in from the south?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, and these are vehicle numbers according to W-Trans per 24-hour periods. So coming in from the east is the largest number, followed by the south. And as Carrie was saying, like I live down here on Elphick, and this is really also a feeder road, you know, for people who live southwest off of the Pleasant Hill neighborhood. So people do come in, just like Carrie explained, and then enter this way and then head that way. So
Yes, good information. I'm just surprised.
yeah.
is
And
there
Jeff-
any information on the pedestrian flow?
There is
would
no
have to
pedestrian.
ask-
It's only
I would have to
vehicles.
ask W. I think it's gonna be, yeah, that's a good question. I
Yeah.
would guess it's kind of around downtown. We may actually have some of that information. I can see if W-Trans or GHG, which has been working on some pedestrian safety, safe street, Vision Zero stuff, have any of that information.
So and the
No,
other.
I'll send that out before the meeting if I do find that they have that, so you can all see it as you're thinking about it.
When we discussed the locations for the other two, it was important that people could approach these sculptures on their feet, as well as by a car.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeff, you made
Nice.
comment about video. You did video drive-by of sites, or what was that? I'm sorry.
no, I did not.
He just drove by him. I don't think you took video of it, right?
No, I mean, I shared photos in the past, particularly of Spooner Park and over by the trailhead near Hot Monk.
Right. Okay.
And I think that was pre-Barbara and Robert, but so we could share a few of those again in the near future.
Yeah, and that map would be really helpful, Carrie, because we can ride through there too.
So it's noon, and I'd like to suggest that we bring this again next month and maybe be ready to select if not actually do it, but be ready to select the location. So if people kind of really think about it, and we come ready to do that, and whatever information can be shared or maps and so on will be helpful.
What kind of budget do we think we would have for such a appeal?
Well, that's another element that needs to get reported on, is the funds we have for this. But let's.
Right, it's certainly something in the $35,000 to $45,000 range, similar to the last two pieces.
Okay,
All right.
anything else pressing before we adjourn?
I do have one item. I'll keep the rest of my planning director report for future, but the council did last night approve the art Ives Park sculpture stipends. And so there was a question on how the committee wants to present those to the artists as well as the symphony and the Art Center. And the only comment that I was asked to relay to you is, well, the symphony was great. There was a desire, if we're going to have music at future, that we try to use more local groups, Sebastopol schools or something like that. But otherwise, they were very pleased with it and happy to approve the stipends.
Right.
Yeah, so then that was, did want to have that on the agenda today. So it's like how we announce and how we transmit the funds. But it's 12.
Correct. And yeah, I can't agendize something that council hasn't approved yet, which is why I'm just doing it during my planning commission report.
Okay.
Okay.
So should we move that on to and wait a month to announce it?
I think that's fine. I cannot give that update to the Climate Action Committee, of which Joshua is a member this afternoon, and we can talk about it at the next, I can put it on the agenda for next meeting.
Okay.
And that probably fulfills our agenda for next meeting, because we now have Patrick Amiot thing, the art location, the stipend. And I think there was one other item, the arts education, all coming back next round.
And then number 6 too, that we didn't get to today, is that gonna be placed?
Sorry, which one is that? I don't have my agenda up right now.
It's the location, which we just talked about, but the indoor arts display at the library and Art Start.
Oh, right.
I would say limit yourself to 4. That way the agenda reflects what this committee can reasonably get to in a meeting. And then if there's members of the public who are interested in something and it doesn't happen, that I know I've heard frustrations with council and other committees where they don't get to an item. I don't know if
You want
that's
to move that
issue here, but-
items to November? B and C, 6B and C to November.
Okay.
Okay.
Carrie, I have a question, just generally, if there's a full agenda, that you put together, can we start the meeting by saying, we actually want to start with F, not A, and rearrange things?
It is always the option that usually the chair leads that. And Margie did ask for a slightly different order. I do tend to, like, when I know there are going to be guests like Sunali today, I do tend to put those up front just so they can,
Sure.
just to try to be respectful of everybody's time, but you can
Yeah,
certainly
that's fine.
reorder that as needed. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
that's what happened. There were 2 guests, and
Yeah, what-
sometimes when we have guests, it tends to be take a while. So that's
Yeah.
Well, did the other guest have anything that she wanted to ask us?
well, we need to.
Now that she's gone.
Yeah. I don't know. Does anybody know who she was or why she?
Well, that was the Patrick Amiot sculpture at Libby.
Oh.
No, we had a person on screen, is what Barbara's saying, who
I think her
didn't
name
say
was
anything.
Louise. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if she was part of the Upcycle Art Group or not, because I know there are a number of people
Yeah,
Sunali's
she must
working
have been
with.
that. Yeah, that's
I
probably what it
suspect
was.
she may have been.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
should we adjourn? Do I have a motion?
And you don't need a motion, you can just adjourn it as chair.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I proclaim this meeting adjourned and we will see you in October. Thank
Stay
you. everybody.